Yosemite pulls millions of visitors every year. Traffic jams, packed trails, and reservations months in advance. But scattered across California are more than 280 state parks, and some hide landscapes just as dramatic. Towering redwoods, roaring waterfalls, desert badlands, and wild coastline. Here are 15 California state parks that quietly rival the national parks. The journey begins in Southern California's vast desert environment. 1. Ocotillo Wells State Vehicular Recreation Area. This park sits deep in the Colorado desert where the terrain looks almost otherworldly. Instead of paved viewpoints, it opens into miles of sculpted badlands, narrow canyons, and steep sandy ridges shaped by wind and flash floods. Many visitors explore by off-road vehicle, climbing features like Devil's Slide or crossing the massive dunes of Blowsand Hill. Step away from the engines and the desert opens into quiet beauty. Fossil beds, colorful eroded hills, and vast horizons glowing copper and gold at sunrise. It's a raw, wide-open side of California that feels worlds away from the state's crowded park icons. 2. Cuyamaca Rancho State Park. A short drive west, the desert floor rises into cooler mountain terrain. Cuyamaca Rancho State Park spreads across oak valleys, pine forests, and open meadows just east of San Diego. More than 100 miles of trails weave through the surroundings, passing creeks, shaded woodland paths, and wide grassy clearings where deer and wild turkeys often wander. One of the best hikes climbs Stonewall Peak, a granite summit that overlooks surrounding mountains and distant desert basins. Compared to Southern California's crowded coastal parks, the atmosphere here feels quieter and far more spacious. Number 3. Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. Continue east, and the landscape expands dramatically. Badlands, dry washes, and rugged desert mountains stretch across an enormous section of Southern California. This vast wilderness is protected within Anza-Borrego Desert State Park, the largest park in the state system. Visitors explore winding slot canyons, palm-filled oases, and sculpted mud hills shaped by centuries of erosion. Scenic drives offer sweeping desert panoramas, and hiking routes lead deep into quiet backcountry where bighorn sheep still roam. After winter storms, the desert can suddenly burst with color during one of California's famous wildflower blooms. Nightfall reveals some of the darkest skies in the region. 4. Red Rock Canyon State Park. Travel north along the Mojave's western edge, and a burst of color appears on the horizon. Red Rock Canyon State Park rises in steep walls of crimson and cream-colored stone, stacked in dramatic layers across the desert. Erosion has carved the cliffs into towering formations and narrow gullies that feel almost otherworldly up close. Short trails wander through the canyon floor, while a longer path climbs above the rock layers for wide views across the surrounding desert plains. The park is relatively small, but the bold colors and rugged shapes make the scenery feel far larger than its footprint. 5. Montaña de Oro State Park. From the desert, the route swings west until the Pacific fills the horizon. Steep cliffs drop straight into crashing surf along a wild stretch of California's central shoreline. Montaña de Oro State Park protects this stunning stretch of shoreline near San Luis Obispo. Trails run along the bluff tops high above the water, revealing miles of open coastline. The climb to Valencia Peak delivers wide views across the ocean and surrounding hills. Down at Spooner's Cove, tide pools, sea caves, and sandy coves sit between dark volcanic rock formations. Hiking coastal ridges or watching waves roll in at sunset makes this park a favorite stop along the waterfront. 6. Garrapata State Park. Continue north along Highway 1 and the cliffs grow steeper. Garrapata State Park occupies a striking part of Big Sur, where headlands rise above restless surf. Short trails climb from the roadside to high bluff viewpoints overlooking the Pacific. Inland paths lead into redwood groves tucked inside narrow canyons. Calla lily fields appear in shaded valleys during cooler months, adding unexpected color to the landscape. With few facilities or major visitor centers, the park stays quieter than nearby Big Sur landmarks, yet delivers equally spectacular scenery. 7. Russian Gulch State Park. Skipping the Bay Area, the cliffs grow wilder near Mendocino. A narrow forested canyon opens toward the Pacific, hiding waterfalls, redwood groves, and rocky shoreline within a surprisingly compact setting. This compact wilderness is Russian Gulch State Park. A trail follows the creek inland to a waterfall dropping into a shaded basin beneath tall trees. Out on the coast, a collapsed sea cave forms a dramatic natural arch where waves surge through the opening at high tide. Bluff-top paths reveal broad ocean views and rocky coves below. Number 8. Salt Point State Park. Farther north along the Sonoma coast, the shoreline turns rugged and wind-carved. Cliffs display strange honeycomb patterns known as taphony, intricate pockets etched into the sandstone by centuries of salt spray and erosion. Salt Point State Park protects this unusual oceanfront landscape where waves slam against flat rock shelves and send spray high into the air. Bluff trails run above the ocean with wide views across open water. Offshore rocks attract seabirds, and nearby forests hide quiet campsites beneath tall pines. The result is a stretch of shoreline defined by texture, motion, and steady Pacific energy. 9. Malakoff-Diggins State Historic Park. Leaving the coast behind, the route turns inland toward California's historic gold country. Dense forest suddenly opens to towering cliffs of pale earth carved by hydraulic mining in the 1800s. Malakoff-Diggins State Historic Park preserves this surprising terrain. Massive canyon-like walls rise above the valley floor, showing the scale of the mining operations that once reshaped the hillside. Trails circle the cliffs and pass through the preserved buildings of North Bloomfield, a once busy mining town. Wooden storefronts and old equipment still line the quiet streets. Number 10. Grover Hot Springs State Park. High in the Sierra Nevada near the Nevada border, the scenery shifts again. Aspen groves, open meadows, and granite peaks surround a quiet alpine valley beneath the mountains. Grover Hot Springs State Park centers on natural mineral pools fed by geothermal springs rising from deep underground. Visitors soak in warm water as cool mountain air drifts across the valley. Trails pass through nearby forests and across grassy meadows with views of surrounding peaks. After deserts, cliffs, and coastline, this peaceful mountain setting offers a completely different reward. 11. Calaveras Big Trees State Park. Deeper in the Sierra foothills, an entirely different kind of giant dominates the landscape. Immense sequoias rise straight into the sky, their reddish trunks thicker than many houses are wide. Calaveras Big Trees State Park protects two remarkable groves of these ancient trees. Boardwalk paths allow close views of the massive trunks, and longer backcountry routes reach quieter sections of forest. Walking among them creates an overwhelming sense of scale. Few places demonstrate the sheer size and age of California's forests as clearly as this one. 12. Castle Crags State Park. Farther north, sharp granite spires suddenly appear above the forest canopy. These jagged formations dominate Castle Crags State Park, rising like broken stone towers along the Sacramento River corridor. Trails climb steadily toward higher slopes, eventually reaching viewpoints that reveal Mount Shasta towering in the distance. The hike toward Castle Dome offers one of the best panoramas in this part of Northern California. Down below, the river flows through pine-covered valleys and quiet picnic areas. The scenery combines alpine drama with surprisingly easy access from Interstate 5. 13. Sumeg State Park. On California's far northern coast, rugged scenery meets deep cultural history. Sumeg State Park protects dramatic headlands overlooking the Pacific and a reconstructed Yurok village, reflecting the region's indigenous heritage. Visitors explore coastal paths above crashing waves and tide pools filled with sea stars and anemones. Offshore rocks attract seabirds, and migrating whales sometimes pass the headlands during certain months. Cultural exhibits and traditional structures add another layer of meaning to the scenery. 14. Prairie Creek Redwood State Park. North of Eureka, the landscape enters some of the tallest forests on Earth. Prairie Creek Redwood State Park contains towering redwoods, fern-covered canyons, and wide grasslands grazed by Roosevelt elk. Trails weave through dense groves where sunlight filters down in narrow beams between enormous trunks. One of the most famous spots is Fern Canyon, a narrow gorge whose vertical walls are completely draped in layers of vibrant green ferns. The scenery looks almost prehistoric, and it actually served as a filming location for Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Number 15. MacArthur Burney Falls Memorial State Park. The journey ends in Northern California's volcanic highlands, with one of the state's most famous waterfalls. At MacArthur Burney Falls Memorial State Park, water spills 129 feet over a basalt cliff in a wide curtain fed by underground springs. The cascade flows consistently throughout the year, even during dry seasons when many other waterfalls fade. A short loop trail leads to the base of the falls, where cool mist fills the air. It's a powerful finale, proof that California's state parks can rival the most famous landscapes in the country. Which of these state parks surprised you the most? For even more incredible parks without the crowds, watch our 15 Northern California state parks that rival Yosemite video next.